first guest, Dr. Howard Moskowitz. He's spent his career getting to the bottom of the how, the what, and the why, and the who of products and services. He barely needs any introduction to you all because there's barely a food company that he hasn't worked with. He's the founder of Mind Genomics, and he will be interviewed today with his partner in his latest venture, MindCart AI, the startup guru, Charles Chai. So over to you, Charles and Howard.
All right, thank you for that introduction, AI Palette. We are thrilled to be here with you today. Now, Howard, since I've gotten to know you, you have consistently organized your thoughts around two images. The first being an image of a mixing machine, and the second being an archival wiki of the mind. Could you explain to the audience the importance of these two images?
Yes. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank AI Palette, and thank you, Charles. When I was a student 50 years ago, I had a desire to accelerate the development of knowledge. I also found a couple of interesting things. One was that we really did not know very much about people. We had these general ideas of people, but we really didn't know the specifics of the minds of people at the very granular level. And I got that from my food work. We would know that a person liked certain products, but we would have no idea how to predict. And we would have no wiki of the mind for that person, for her or his likes. Second, when I got out of graduate school and I began to work in the government and in industry, I found out that the development process was long and tortuous, that there was no such thing as an accelerated development. And I had this fantasy that propelled me for years to create an invention machine, a mix master of ideas. And here we are from 1969 to 2020.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to this next slide here. And clearly, these ideas of a mix master and a wiki of the mind has taken root. So over the years, you've had the chance to work with some of the world's largest companies, many of whom spend billions of dollars each year to understand their customers in order to implement these ideas. But in your experience, what are these companies doing right? And what are they doing wrong? And as a little prelude, I know that you've talked about testing versus systematic exploration in the past.
Yes. Let me make one suggestion that it's not billions of dollars, it's tens of millions of dollars for many of these companies. But they're all thinking alike. They all do tests. How well do I do versus competitors? How well does my pickle do against the leading competitor, which was the origin of how I got to work with Vlasic. And what I came in the 1960s, the late 60s, and the middle 70s was with the suggestion that we do experiments, systematics, try different combinations, develop rules. And I'm grateful to one person in particular, Robert Abernathy, the vice chairman of the Pepsi Cola Company, who in the middle 1970s at a meeting to his staff said, I want to work with Dr. Moskowitz. I think he has cracked some of the problem.
Understood. Now, on this next slide, and given that this is a food and beverage conference, and your work is perhaps most acclaimed in this area, can you tell us any stories about how some of these products may have come about?
Yes, let me tell you about the two ones on the top and then the one on the side. Vlasic pickles, 1980. I get a frantic call from Vlasic, who I knew from some scientific meetings that had lost a Clausen. Would I do a taste test and tell them what to do? Instead, I said, let's make these 45 variations. Fortunately, Dr. Palnikar said, yes, let's do it. We believe it. And a month later, we had Zesty Pickle, the biggest selling pickle in history, $125 million. Paul said, I'm going to make the 45 products. It's not always 45 products, but that seems to be a magic number. Now I've got it down to 8, but then it was 45. Prego chunky pasta sauce, same problem. They were losing to Ragu. Kathleen MacDonald, who was the group leader there, said, I want to try this new approach. Her market researcher, Monica Wood, said, let's try it. I suggested making these various combinations. The R&D people said that will take a lot of time. Kathleen said, I'm paying for it. They made the product, and they came out with different Prego sauces, and $3 billion later and 40 years later, they're making a lot of money on Prego. Dr. Pepper, 20 years after that, the early 2000s, 2004, 2005, same problem. Only this time we're introducing a new flavor, and we want to make sure that that flavor sticks around for a number of years. Can you help us? Same approach, systematics. The common thing, rather than tests, and tests are us, systematic variations of the product, learn, and the data is good for 2, 3, or 4 decades.
Got it. So really referring back to the idea of a mixed master of ideas.
Mixed master of ideas, mixed master of ingredients with systematic variation. Always a mix master. You know nothing. Mix it, do it systematically, test it, not among lots of people, but a moderate number, and you will find the rules, and the rules will make you money.
Sounds good to me. And Howard, I've just learned, well, more recently, that you are also responsible for orange juice with pulp. Can you confirm
Yes,
or deny this? Okay. All right.
I confirm it. Same thing. None of my story is going to be any different. And a lot of companies have said, we don't want to do it. It's too much work. You can't force a change in culture. But I can virtually guarantee anybody who does systematics will make a lot more money and fail a lot fewer times, whether it's ideas or whether it's products.
Got it. Now, you've been talking about your vision of a wiki of the mind and a mixing machine, which I think we're starting to understand. But could you please tell us how this slide represents this vision?
Well, now we're going to ideas. As I said before, ideas are mixes, basic. There are many, many different areas of daily existence, of daily life. There's products that you eat, there's services that you use, there are topics that you study, etc. I'd like to know how to create these all as products so that we can create a better life. For example, how do I have a better medical experience, just like a better Prego? In order to do that, I've had to do the same thing, treat the world as little granular ideas. And each of these granular ideas or experiences is a set of ingredients. And when we mix and match these, we come up with groups of different people in the same granular idea. For example, if you have food, there might be those who are classics, who love the ordinary traditional foods. There are those who are explorers who love different flavors, and there are those who are convenience, who love convenience and price. I would like to be able to know this type of information at a granular, actionable level for 300 to 400 topics for every person in the world. And I'd like to have it so that that person can answer 6 questions for any topic area that I have and assign that person to the right group. And this is an image of it. We'll return to this in a minute. But my image is you answer 6 questions for a topic area, and I know exactly who you are. And I can create a product for you, or I can create an advertising that you will buy.
Got it. So, with respect to any given topic, product, or service, what you're saying is that people fall into different patterns of thought. And if we can understand what these patterns are, we can create better products and we can sell them more effectively.
Absolutely. And we can store this information so that we have 1 billion records, and each record has 400 numbers. And that tells us the mind of that person on 400 areas, topics of food, daily life, exercise, health attitudes, attitudes toward banking, toward driving, etc.
Got it. So, I understand now what you mean by mix master of ideas. But could you explain the concept in context to the slide for some of the audience members who are just
Yeah.
getting newly exposed to this?
We want to have a product which is a new dairy product. And rather than coming up with one idea, we're going to divide it into different aspects, those different groups of 4. And there are several different aspects for each one, like a frozen yogurt, a Greek yogurt, what it has, what it does, etc. It could be combinations of 2 or 3 or 4 different foods, or it could be one food with different features in it. We're then going to take this idea and we're going to mix and match these to combinations. We're going to show the combinations to people. Everybody's going to see different combinations of these ideas. That's the systematics. They are going to respond. And from the pattern of their responses, we are going to find out not only what works, but we're going to find out these basic groups, these mindsets, these mind genomes, so that we'll be able to produce not one good product, but maybe 2 or 3 dynamically great products and know how to sell them. So this is our input. And I want you to think about, what if we could do one thing beyond the input? What if the input did not have to be given by people, but could be given by artificial intelligence, which is how we're working with AI Palette. But that's anticipating our next minute. So
Got
here
it.
it
So
is. Yes.
that's right. That's right. So now we fully understand the concept of the mix master and the experimental design. So would you do us the honor of explaining how artificial intelligence plays a role in the
So
overall equation?
if we go back, we saw that there were 4 groups, 4 sets of ideas that we were going to mix and match together to create vignettes. And those ideas came from people. But some of AI Palette said, why don't we have artificial intelligence trained to provide us the input? So that rather than people coming up with ideas, the artificial intelligence can scour the trends and go in and out, figure out what's trending, and bring us those 4 different sets of ideas. And rather than having a person having to think, what we could do is simply have artificial intelligence comb the region, find out what's trending, come up with recommendations, put it into the mix master, the mind genomics, send that out to 50 people, get the data, which is mixed and matched so that everybody sees different combinations, and come back in 30 to 60 minutes with the results. And my vision is, what if you let this system go and on and on and on, in probably a day you can crack something that could not be cracked in 6 months. So that's where artificial intelligence comes in as the producer of the ideas which get put into the mix master. The mix master goes out, sends combinations of ideas to human beings who don't know that they were put together by artificial intelligence. They react, and automatically we understand what's working, what's not working. And we come up with new to the world combinations, new products, and new ways of describing them.
Sounds like a very powerful combination. AI is good at analyzing trends, what's hot, and then the mix master puts these ideas to the test to create the perfect combination at the basis of a new product or a new sales strategy.
And imagine if that could be done in an hour or two. And you could do 20 of them in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lose. I mean, if I can do 20 iterations, getting better and better, I think we have a very strong competitive tool for the future.
So speaking of fast iterative study, creating a competitive future, you actually ran the study using
Yes.
the AI input and the Mind Genomics Mix Master. So what does this slide say to you?
This says to me, based upon the responses to these combinations, people can't game it. We can determine that there are 3 mindsets, even if people do not know the mindset to which they belong. There are 3 groups of ideas which go together. Mindset 1, for example, talks about Greek yogurt, high in protein smoothies, and probiotic rich in immune boosting. We have a new idea for a product. Mindset 2, they're flavoring groups, colorful appearance. We know exactly how to create a product for mindset 2. Mindset 3, not a chance, maybe low sugar. But all of a sudden, in one iteration, we have learned what could have taken 6 to 8 weeks or even 6 to 8 months. But we've learned that in probably a day. And now the next iteration would home in on the nature of the texture, the nature of the features, and so forth, until 2 or 3 iterations, and now we have the direction, the product concept for the product developer to formulate. This
Understood.
could not have happened without a combination of artificial intelligence and mind genomics, that mix master. There's no way anybody could have thought of these.
So that last slide is a little bit dense. Maybe not for you, but for the average bear. So what would you, and I've sort of, created a more easy to digest format here. So what would you say the manufacturer should take away from the artificial intelligence and mixed master experiment results?
To me, it's straightforward. There are 3 potential features or products, and here's the basic ideas. They need to be enhanced, so we run 2 or 3 more, but we'll know exactly what to tell the product developer to start thinking of including.
Understood.
It
So
does not look, by the way, it does not look complicated, nor is it. It's not meant to impress. It's simply meant to take 6 months of work and collapse it down to 2 days.
so in a few days, a few iterations of studies, what you're saying is that you can crack the code on the problem of what to create and how to sell it. Simple as that.
I don't do it. I think artificial intelligence can do it. We've already done it with manual inputs. We're doing it all the time. I'm simply looking at artificial intelligence as giving us something that instead of taking a day will take an hour and a half.
Understood. So, let me go back here. So,
And this is it. Now that we have it, I know I jumped in to the question. Why don't you ask your question, Charles?
So we've seen this slide before. It's your assignment machine. And now that we've gone through the idea of a mix master and shown it with respect to the experiment on yogurt, you were saying to me before that you could ask any person in the world these 6 questions listed on the slide, and for that product, know the exact words to say to get that customer to buy. Could you tell me more about that?
Absolutely. Now that we know that there are 3 segments or mindsets, and we have the questions, we have a tool called the Personal Viewpoint Identifier, and it comes out with 6 questions from the study. And the pattern of the answers to the 6 questions, because questions only take about 30 seconds to ask in total, will assign you to group 1, to group 2, or to group 3. And now you can be advertised to appropriately. So that's this product. Now imagine doing these studies for every facet of the food and beverage and health and nutrition world, so that you don't have one study, you have maybe 150 studies. And you essentially could ask any person, any set of those 150 studies, and get a fingerprint of their mind genome. Imagine storing that for dietetics. Imagine storing that for a company like Loblaws, which has a loyalty program. Imagine knowing the minds of 20 million customers on 100 different food products and food product areas. This notion of this general encyclopedia, the wiki of the mind with respect to food, opens up an entirely new area of knowledge-based work.
Certainly sounds powerful indeed. To be able to ask any person a series of 6 questions and to understand their exact predisposition on a topic perhaps better than how they could themselves vocalize to you.
And thank you, that's exactly. Imagine the good we could do for obesity, the good we could do for healthy living, the good we could do for medical work, and so forth, when actually people's minds could be known, not in an invasive manner, but in a way to help them.
Understood. All right. Well, Howard, that's our time. Thank you so much for participating. It was my pleasure. And AI Palette, thank you as well. And that concludes our
All right, Howard. So we are now live. We have some questions from the audience. Howard, can you confirm that you can hear me and you can respond?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
So we have time for about 1 or 2 questions here. So the first question being, often when a new approach is introduced, we get resistance from the users/customers because they see something different to what they have seen in the past. How do you overcome such situations?
When I was a student at Harvard University, I learned one thing which shocked me, and that was my professor, E.G. Boring, says you don't convince your opponents, you outlive them. That was number 1. That sounds facetious, but it's not. Number 2 is I don't believe that I will be particularly successful with the generation that is 40, 50, 60, or 70, because sadly those people are ensconced in their job and are riding it out to retirement. This is going to make everybody angry, but it's okay. But what I see happening is that the young entrepreneurs are taking over and they're grabbing it. I see also that young students are grabbing it to produce their own vision of what they could do. They're not interested in doing what's been done already. They're interested in carving out an opportunity. So for them, it's not what we've always done because they're not old enough to have always done something. And the third thing is I see it among the poorer people in Europe, the people in Albania, the people in Montenegro, the people in Serbia, the people in Hungary who are adopting it. And they have visiting students who are going to take it back. The students are 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So it's not me who is going to get the resistance. It's these young people who are going to be the vanguard of the future. And that's my word of encouragement to the young people, that the future is yours. Grab it.
That's great. Well, I think that's time, Howard. Thank you for participating in this with me. And AI Palette, it's all yours.
Thank you so much.